Before we begin, thank you very much to I Eat Bugs for joining the Patreon campaign. You can make me say literally whatever you want as long as it's within TOS when you do the shoutouts. Sometimes I get to say very odd things. I have never eaten a bug that I'm aware of. But someone out there does. So thank you very much for helping out. Thank you very much for the contribution to the Patreon. And for an interesting donation amount, by the way. I've not seen that before. Thank you for that. So, we did this a while back. This is going to be our second debate video, which means I can bring you the results of the first, which you can plainly see on screen right now. Last time we did one of these debates, it was about fake parts in Transformers, whether you are okay with them being used or if you want all the authentic parts of the vehicle mode to be the matching parts on the robot mode. And I'm actually very surprised. We had less than 15% say no fake parts. For the most part, at least when it comes to you out there, the TJOmega viewers, you seem pretty cool with it, which I honestly think is the correct side of history. I think a lot of Transformers have been better because they haven't been stuck with the limitation of having to have all of the authentic vehicle mode parts make up the robot mode. I feel like it lets them be more accurate. It feels like it lets their transformations be a lot smoother. And it gets around a lot of animation cheating that we know a lot of Transformer cartoons end up doing, that the movies end up doing. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons to actually enjoy the fake parts. This used to be a really divisive thing, but I'm really glad to see that, we're not as uptight about it anymore. We've kind of skewed. So, that leaves me to today's debate. Now, once again, just like we did with the previous one, there's not going to be a whole lot of visual representation for this video, because it's mostly just me playing both sides, telling you the arguments for one side and then the others, telling you my thoughts on it, and then leaving you to your own thoughts and devices. So this time, you can tab out and go do something else. Go check your emails. Go check on your Blue Sky, because we should all be on Blue Sky at this point. You can find my Blue Sky link in the description of the video. I'm trying to use it a lot more lately. So, this time the debate is one of the most age-old ones in Transformer history. Do you open your toys or not? This one you could apply to just about any toy collector. It is always the debate of mint in box or loose. How do you collect in this fandom? So, like I said, like with before, there is no wrong answer, there is only opinion, and I mostly kind of do this because I'm curious as to where my TJOmega fandom kind of falls in this debate. So, do you leave it in the box or do you open it up and play with it? So, we're going to take a look at both sides of that argument, because there are very different reasons for both directions. So, we're going to start with the MISB people. So, we're going to talk about why do you leave them in the box? So, the first thing I think a lot of people are going to go to is collector value. And yes, there isn't really any disputing that. If the collector value, if the toy is popular, it's going to have an increase in demand. And the closer it is to, its original condition, the higher the demand is going to be, the higher the price it's going to command, which means nothing tops mint in sealed box. Mint in sealed shipping box might top it, depending on what it is. I have seen a G.I. Joe flag still in its shipping crate, and it jumps the price by like $10,000. So that's about as complete as you could possibly get. But that said, when it comes to Transformers, yeah, you'll find a lot of people still have that mindset of, the collector value is just going to be so much higher if I leave them in box. I mean, look at where I am. Look at what surrounds me right now. I am surrounded buy toys that have been left unopened for varying lengths of time. You know, I have things that came out last year. They're a little bit more expensive than they were. You know, I have a Hot Wheels Hulk over here. It's one of the early, like, licensed toys that Marvel did. Well before they were doing their own action figures and things. This is from 1977. Okay? This is ridiculous. So, you know, you're talking like well over 40 years old and it's never left the packaging. And it's over $120. And it would be worth more, but the bubble's damaged. So, like, yeah. Yeah, obviously. Now, with Transformers, there's always that inherent risk when it comes to MISB for a few reasons. Number one, every now and then Hasbro will put out the toy. Again, that's going to hurt the value. We've seen a lot of that lately. Though, ironically, recently they stated, we're going to shift strategies on that. We might not actually do that anymore, which would be interesting. It's certainly going to make the chase a little less annoying. But when you look at like past toys, like the one I always point to is Classic Starscream. I don't know why I had RC on the brain there. When you look at that Starscream toy, it was $10 when it first comes out in 2006. And when 2007 rolls around and Transformer nostalgia hits really hard because of the live action movies, that Starscream's off the shelves now, and it's now $50. This toy is less than a year old, and it jumped 5 times in value. And everyone would jump on that and immediately think, this thing's going to be worth a mint someday. This thing's going to be worth so much someday. I'm going to retire on this one figure. Fast forward another year, the toy is repainted for Universe in more cartoon-accurate deco. The original toy, the Classics version, plummets in value again. You know, Classics is almost 20 years old at this point, and I think I have not seen the value of that Starscream regain what it once had, because the demand was sated by the Universe release. So things like that can really screw up your attempt at like collector value. But then again, sometimes it's the most unexpected things that will actually do that. Who would have thought that Siege Greenlight would have ended up being a toy that in box commands $250? That toy is legitimately worth more than some G1 figures that are still mint in sealed box. That actually makes a case for the idea of keep everything in mint condition. Keep it all in box, because if you're really going for the collector value of it, you never know. It could be literally anything. So, of course, if you have an all mint in sealed box collection, the value is always going to go up because, you know, you are keeping it as pristine as possible, and there are going to be those occasional hits in there that just go astronomical in price. You know, a collection that, you know, you drop $500 on everything, you know, maybe it ends up worth being $3,000-$4,000 if you just sit on it for a few years. Sit on it longer, maybe it becomes worth $10,000. You don't really know, but at the very least, you know you're going to have the most value in that collection. Now, I will say, there is more to MISB collecting than just value. For a lot of people, it's about being as complete as possible. You know, the toy is not 100% complete unless it's still in the package it came in. You know, that is the representation of like literally everything that is that toy. It gets a little bit harder to enjoy, you know, mint in box collecting in that regard in recent years because we have sealed off boxes now. You can see that with like the 2 leader toys in this picture. We are getting a lot more windowed packaging though. Mint in box collecting also took a hit when they took the plastic bubble out, by the way. You know, it's very hard to keep something pristine condition when there is, you know, it's obviously open and exposed to the elements no matter what you do. So they did make it a little bit harder for mint in box collectors. I do apologize for that. That doesn't even account for the fact that without that bubble, You have one side of the box, sometimes two, that lack the structural strength they used to have, so getting them to still be in good shape, also difficult. Okay, mint in box collectors, you've had it rough the last few years. I do apologize on behalf of Hasbro, as a representative of John Hasbro. So it's not just about value, right? Sometimes it is about having it as complete as possible. Sometimes it's about the nostalgia of it. So it is entirely possible to be a Transformers fan without really being a fan of the toys. You like the movies, you like the cartoons even, and maybe you really like the comic books. But that said, you don't feel a need to have a transforming figure out and on display, even if it's your favorite character. You would go back and just buy the ones you like and then leave them that way. Because maybe your nostalgia comes from seeing them on the toy shelves when you were a little kid. If you were a kid whose parents couldn't afford a new Transformer every time you went to the store, then maybe the way you imagine and way you take in the nostalgia and the way you enjoy them the most is seeing them the way you saw them, still in the box. And while, yeah, there's that kid in you who's always going to want to know what it was like to play with it, there is something satisfying for a lot of people about seeing it the way they first encountered it in a store. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll get back to that point in a minute. But I do want to make an argument of it's not always about collector value when we're talking mint and sealed box collecting. So let's take a look at the other side of the argument now, and we'll talk loose collecting. So obviously, value is not a concern here. They will still have value. They will still eventually gain value, but obviously when you open it and take it out, you immediately plummet the value. So it has longer to go, and and it has an uphill climb before it gains, before it reaches a point where it's breaking even or even becoming more valuable than it originally was. You really have to have one of those absolutely random hits in order to make that work for you if you are looking to make money off of them. Siege Ratchet here, another good example. It's worth over $100 now. Mine is opened. Now, an opened one, we also have an open one here at the shop. The open one is $60 as far as the last time I checked the value, and that's still pretty good. That's still pretty good, right? So when you're talking about things like this, something to keep in mind is it's the way, we're talking about the way you enjoy mint in box collecting isn't just about money. For a lot of people, and frankly me included, it is about the toy experience that makes it, that makes a toy memorable. It's not just about a value chase for me. It's about just having fun with a figure. It's a toy. It's meant to be opened and it's meant to be played with. You're meant to have fun with it, or you're meant to show it off and have it on display in a collection, and it's the intended idea for them, at least as far as the collector-oriented Transformers go. Now, when it comes to that, there are problems, right? Well, yes, it's okay, I don't care about the value. I'm just going to open it up and play with it. And I acknowledge that 90%, 95% of the Transformers I buy are not going to skyrocket in value. It's not going to break me that it's $10 cheaper, when I go to sell it than it could have been. I just want to play with it and enjoy it. There's pitfalls to that. There are pitfalls to that. See, when you're a loose collector, you are still looking for the best iterations of these characters, the ones that are the most fun to play with. So when a figure comes out, when Earthrise Ironhide comes out, and he's a pretty good Ironhide, but he's got a big piece of kibble that comes off. He's got some leftover pieces from the Siege figure that are kind of ugly, but it's still a serviceable Ironhide who looks good on the shelf with the rest of my collection. Then comes the 86 Ironhide, which looks way better. And that's kind of how Transformers go. It's always about the new iteration of the figure, of the character. Now, this is something that any toy collector can relate to, is that constant chase for the new one, the best one, or the one that at the very least hits your aesthetic correctly. Now, they could release an Optimus or a Megatron that just hits you in the right way, and that will be like your version of the character, right? And it doesn't matter which ones they release later on. Okay, cool. And loose collectors can enjoy that. But it does become tricky because, like I can buy Siege Optimus Prime and I enjoyed it greatly. But then Earthrise comes out and I enjoy that better. And now I have the 86 one and I enjoy that better. But because I'm always chasing the better version, I have all these extras left over. Whereas a sealed collector, they have what they want out of it. They're not chasing the play experience. It is a value thing. It's a nostalgia thing, so they're happy with it in box. They might do the same thing, but they're still gaining everything they want out of it. Whereas my experience, I'm replacing it constantly. And that is the downside to the loose collecting, because you are constantly chasing what is the best version for you. I did the same thing with Marvel Legends. Like I said, this could work with just about any toy collecting. With Marvel Legends, I have one specific Spider-Man figure. And they've released so many iterations of a 6-inch Spider-Man, right? And there's always little improvements. Okay, sculpt is a little better, paint's a little better. They've added butterfly joints, or, they switched up the hips to work better, or they're pinless. This new Spider-Man is pinless. For me, it was the 2-pack with Spinneret. That one that came out, that's like my perfect Spidey, because it's like 90s style, larger eye lenses. Like, that's my Spider-Man. So I really don't feel the need to ever buy another one of those Spider-Men. But that is because I'm always going to get the same play experience out of it. Whereas with a Transformer, I'm always looking for the best one. And I fully admit, Hasbro's probably never going to release a definitive one. Even the 86 Optimus, I think there's flaws to, which means I'm going to be stuck buying the next one that comes out. That 86 Prime is probably going to be run more than once. We're probably going to see it again. But when they get around to doing another iteration of G1 Optimus, maybe it hits all the notes the 86 doesn't. I don't know. So there's the downside to the loose collecting. Now, obviously, loose collectors don't really care as much about the value. They don't care about that. And again, it's a different nostalgia feel. I go back and I buy the occasional G1 toys that I grew up with because I want to feel those toys again. I want to experience what my childhood remembers. And I can't do that with a sealed box. And I can do it way cheaper the loose figure. So to go backwards as a as a loose collector is actually really rewarding. Especially if you find it in good shape and the joints still work and you get to experience the thing that like tickled your brain as a kid, and it brings up all this lovely nostalgia. So yeah, like upsides and downsides, right? And it's all about how you want to experience things. Now, before we get to the actual, like, which side are you on, we will acknowledge there is a third side to this argument. It's not a two-sided debate. These Beast Wars toys were at this shop before I started working here, which was only like a month of this store's existence that I did not work here. I bought them fully intending to open them up. However, when I saw them like this, I realized there's something special about the way they are now. You remember the point I made with mint in box collecting of like, it's about the nostalgia. For me, who skipped a lot of the Beast Wars toys, my nostalgia comes from the way I saw them in the stores, hanging on the pegs in this packaging. So what ended up happening was I kind of became a mint in box Beast Wars collector. I've got over 20 Beast Wars figures that are unopened and just pinned to my wall, or their boxes stacked up on a shelf. And I don't know why. Like, when I bought them, I fully intended to open them, experience what these toys would have felt like if you opened them up in 1996 or 97, and experience the Beast Wars toys I never got to experience completely mint in box fresh. The way they would have been if I had bought them as a kid. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. And I found out that I really like having them in the box. And you know me by now. If you know me on this channel, I am very much a proponent of open your toys and enjoy them the way they were meant to be enjoyed. So for me to find a realm of Transformers where I'm like, I don't want to open these, and it doesn't have anything to do with the age. You know, you've seen me. I've opened a mint Transmetal Rhinox on camera. It's not about the age of the Transformer. It's about, there's something about it that I just enjoy having it this way. So the third option here is, it's situational. You know, like if I get my hands on a sealed G1 Optimus, of course I'm not opening it. Of course I'm not opening it. It's a $600 toy. But there are situations, you know? You realize how many times I have been tempted, looking at my sealed Beast Wars toys, just like open up Noctoro or some like simple, like cheap figure to regain if I really wanted it. Some character I'm not attached to, but I have it in box anyway because I just came across it one day just to get to play around with something new. So there is the option. So just as before, we have a poll. This is how the debate videos are going to work. Every time we do a debate, there is going to be a poll where you can go and answer the question for me. How do you collect Transformers? Are you a mint in box collector? And if so, let me know in the comments why. Is it about the nostalgia? Is it about the value? Or do you just enjoy the way they are in box? And if you're an open collector, again, does the monetary value mean anything to you, or do you just like opening it up and playing with it? It's all about how you enjoy the experience of Transformers. And guess what? There isn't a wrong answer here. There is not a wrong answer to how you enjoy your fandom. I've seen the My Little Pony fandom. I take that back. There are wrong ways of enjoying your fandom. But for the most part, don't let anyone yuck your yums. This isn't a competition. This is just differing viewpoints. We're all Transformer collectors. We're all having fun in our own way. So don't yuck anybody's yums. Just be you. Answer the poll that is linked in the description below. And the next time we do one of these debate videos, I'll let you know how it went. So that's it for me today. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.